2019 Nissan Qashqai SV all-wheel drive. Today we're taking a look at the 2019 Nissan Qashqai. Now this is the second generation Nissan Qashqai. It's a very successful product for Nissan, particularly in Europe. In the UK actually it's a top selling crossover slash CUV. The second generation model was the first one that was introduced in North America. Globally it was revealed in 2014. It came to North America in 2017. It's known as a Rogue Sport in the US. I think that's a tie-in with overall Rogue sales and make those sales figures seem more robust against the RAV4 and CR-V. But in Canada, it's called the Qashqai. Now, globally, a new Qashqai was just revealed in 2021, which is coming out this summer. However, this North American model was only refreshed in 2020. So I think we might be stuck with it for a few more years. So let's take a look today and see how it compares both as a used car and as a new product in this super competitive segment. So let's start off with the exterior. Overall, I think Nissan's done a pretty good job styling this car. On the road, it looks a lot larger than it actually is, and that I think is in part due to the front end. The front end of the Rogue Sport slash Qashqai very closely mimics the front end of the previous generation Rogue. So when you're driving this on the road and you see it coming in, you think it's just another Rogue. So shout out to them for making that front end look a lot bigger than it actually is. And that theme kind of continues on with the rest of the car too. You have pronounced haunches around the wheels in the front and back, and the overall height of the car makes it seem bigger and more substantial than it actually is. Having said that though, I do think that this particular car is starting to look a little bit dated compared to other Nissan products. The new Altima, the new Sentra, the new Versa, all of them have an updated version of Nissan styling. And this car, being one generation behind, is now starting to look like it's a previous generation product. The recent refresh helped with some of that stuff and made it look a little bit more current. But I think now knowing what the new Qashqai looks like globally and the new Rogue just having been launched, this is starting to look a little bit old. Now let's jump on over into the interior, and I'll break that up into a couple of parts. Firstly, styling. I think from a styling perspective, similar to what I said on the outside, they've done a good job in making it feel like the typical Rogue or the bigger Rogue. So because of that, you feel like you're driving a bigger car. It's spacious inside and it feels vast. So from an inside driver's perspective, it doesn't feel like you're driving a subcompact crossover, but actually a much larger crossover. My favorite part of the interior is actually the steering wheel. In the SV trim, it comes with a flat bottom and it's leather wrapped. So that makes it feel a lot more premium when you're driving, and it's just a nicer experience than some of the polyurethane steering wheels, which can be a little bit cheaper feeling and grittier. So I do enjoy the leather wrapped flat bottom steering wheel in this car. However, some of the material choices are a bit iffy. This is a near top trim. This is the SV all-wheel drive, and some parts are high quality, like the top of the dash is nice and padded. This part is nice and padded here by the driver's door and the passenger's door, which is nice because you don't get that in all other cars in this class. But other areas are a little bit cheap. For example, this plastic right here is a little bit cheap and scratchy, and so is the plastic near my knee. And these are areas that sometimes when I'm driving, I do end up touching. So a little bit of a shame that they've gone for cheaper, harder plastic down there, but it's understandable given the price point. Also, what I'm not a big fan of is the piano black that's everywhere inside of this car. It looks good when the car is new and the car is factory fresh, but after a couple of years, when you get some scratches and fingerprint and dust on it, it makes it look messier or dirtier than the car actually is. Moving on to the tech in the cabin, and I think the tech in the cabin is what makes this car feel dated. For example, it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, but the screen that it uses in the middle is really quite small. I mean, a modern large Android phone or large iPhone has a screen that's bigger than the screen that's in the Qashqai. So not only does that make it feel older, but it also increases the difficulty of using it. However, on the flip side of this, you do get some nice things that are now being taken out of cars. So you got a physical tuning knob and a physical volume knob. You got physical buttons for the infotainment system and for the climate control. And that's awesome when you're driving because it distracts you less and you just know where the buttons are and it's easier to use. So that's kind of the flip side of some of the tech being more dated, is it's easier to use, but it's also a little bit behind. Moving on to interior practicality. In the front here, it's large and spacious, like I mentioned before. Lots of shoulder room, lots of headroom, even with the sunroof in the SV model. And what's good is you have large windows, so that aids with great visibility, and it also makes it feel like you're driving a car where you know the edges and the outside, which is good for city driving, which is what these subcompact crossovers are best at. There's also a lot of practical storage solutions in the front. The glove box is pretty large and it's damped, which is nice for the subcompact SUV class. You also have a little grippy area in the middle here to put your phone, to connect to Apple CarPlay. The door pockets are actually really large and can store a full-size water bottle, which is rare for cars that are even bigger than this one. And what I particularly enjoy is actually the cup holder positioning. It's behind the gear shifter and it's side to side, so it doesn't really get in the way. Some cars put it in line, or some cars put it in front of the gear shift, and those kind of things get in the way of you driving, but this is a great position. And you also have a large center console, and it's deep, which is awesome. In between the heated seat controls here, you have a little storage area as well, which is I find is a great convenient place to put your keyless entry key. In the rear seat here, I think it's a little bit more cramped than the front. Shoulder room is okay and headroom is okay, but knee room and leg room isn't the greatest. You can see here I'm 5'9", 5'10", and it's a little bit cramped when it comes to overall leg and knee room. But for sitting three across, the shoulder room is pretty great. If you're going on short trips, you could pretty comfortably fit 3 people in the back here. Just keep in mind that legroom isn't the best. The best part about this car, I think, is the practicality in the cargo area. So you open it up, lots of usable room. It's pretty square shaped, so you could get a lot of stuff in here. You could fold both seats flat, and they go all the way flat, so you could store long objects in there if you want to. What's awesome about the rear cargo area is that Nissan has implemented this storage solution called divide and hide. So you have these almost trays or parcels that you could put on a different level or take them out completely, and you could get some extra storage space. Or if you have something valuable, you could put it underneath here, put the storage tray on top, and no one would even know that you have it. So I think for this size of car and this class of car, the cargo space is probably one of the best in class. So let's move on to overall driving impressions and what I think of the handling. So I think from a day-to-day usage perspective, it's okay. I mean, it's stable on the highway, it feels comfortable, it's not too hard to drive, it doesn't float around too much, the steering isn't too darty, which is great. So you know, it's a nice, comfortable daily drive. When it comes to pushing the car a little bit, maybe if you're on a curvy road or you're taking an on-ramp or an off-ramp at speed, then it tends to get a little bit kind of floaty. So not the best handling when it comes to actually pushing it to its limits, but most people typically aren't going to do that. So I think for day-to-day driving, it handles well. It's not best in class when it comes to handling, but it'll be perfect for your day-to-day driving. What's also great is its ride. It really absorbs bumps. You don't really feel too many ruts in the road or too many undulations, which is great. So just overall a nice, comfortable daily drive when it comes to both the handling and the ride quality and ride comfort. What's also cool is that in the all-wheel drive models, you could lock the all-wheel drive. You have an all-wheel drive lock button, and that locks the all-wheel drive at 50% power in the front, 50% power in the rear, up to 40 kilometers an hour. So if you live on a snowy, hilly street or a snowy dirt road, then that's a great feature for getting you up and out of your driveway. All right, so let's talk about powertrain. Now, in the North American market, the Qashqai or the Rogue Sport comes with one engine. That's it. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, 141 horsepower, 147 foot-pounds of torque. This car comes in at 3,400 pounds, and that engine paired with the CVT is just a disastrous combination. I mean, the CVT is slow and lethargic. Nissan's implemented these fake shift points, but they're so slow, and combined with the slow engine, it takes so long to shift from one gear to the next that it almost feels like you're losing speed in between. So I'd say the biggest weak point of this overall package is the powertrain. It's just not enough power for the weight of this car. And combine that with Nissan's not so stellar reliability when it comes to CVTs. They tend to not do so well after the 100,000 mark typically. So the powertrain, I think, is the biggest watch out when it comes to taking a look at this car. So overall, what's my conclusion for this car as a new car proposition? I think it's a great option for someone who wants a lot of practicality because it's pretty spacious in the front and the cargo area is pretty spacious. It feels bigger than it is, it looks bigger. So if you're looking for a subcompact SUV that feels more like a compact SUV, then this is a great option. However, in the subcompact SUV class right now, I think there's better options that you could pick from. It's a super hotly contested segment. Every automaker wants a piece of the pie, so everyone has a car that they're launching in this category. And they're a lot newer than this car. So I think Nissan having a car that's almost 7 years old in this category is really hampering its chances for sales domination. So hopefully we'll get the new Qashqai soon in North America because that'll really change things. How does it stand as a used car? So I was looking at the used car prices for this when I was come to this conclusion. It's a bit hard to do it right now. For those of you who don't know, there's a chip shortage going on for semiconductor chips across the world, and that's really impacting car production. So there's not that much new inventory left. So because of that, the prices of used cars have skyrocketed. So at the time of this review, it's kind of tough to give a used car opinion or a used car perspective from a pricing standpoint. But I think what I saw, this car typically retails for about 2 to 3K less than a similar Nissan Rogue full size used. My perspective for that is just go with the full-size Rogue. You get a lot more space, you get a lot more power, a lot more practicality. If you want a Nissan SUV, then definitely go with the bigger Rogue. So from a used car perspective, either go with the larger Rogue if you want a Nissan, a different subcompact SUV if you want something in this class, or even save a little bit of money and go for a sedan. That would be a better overall package. So thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys think of the Qashqai, the Rogue Sport. Didn't mean for this to be so critical, but I think it's just a really outdated product in the class right now. Good thing there's a new one coming. Just wait on that, wait for that new one to come, and you'll be all good. Let me know what you think. Stay tuned for next time.